As soon as TJ Lin entered, he was executing his plan and took off his button shirt to reveal a white t-shirt with the word killer written on it, displaying an arrogant smile on his face, an idea that usually evokes youthfulness, the images of innocence. But this is the youngest serial killer in history, starkly contradicting the ideal. Their horrifying actions are a disturbing testament to the dark potential that lies within them. So we will explore the troubling journeys of those individuals whose early lives were marked by inexplicable acts of violence. Amarjit Sada is an extremely rare case of a child serial killer. He earned the title of the world's youngest serial killer, allegedly having killed 3 people before reaching the age of 8. Born in the village of Musahar in Bihar, India, to parents struggling to make a living, Sada was a somewhat isolated child who found his love in activities like climbing trees and exploring the local area. His life took a disturbing turn when his aunt, who found a job in the city, tasked him. While taking care of her child as well as her younger sister, it was reported that Amarjit engaged in cruel, horrifying acts. He began pinching and slapping the child for amusement, leaving the baby crying distressingly. His actions escalated alarmingly when he put his hands around the child's throat, trying to stop his breathing. Then, the infant was killed and buried under the grass, and he returned home. At that point, Amarjit confessed to his mother, and she was shocked, and he was punished physically by his father for the crime. They chose not to involve the police and fabricated a story for themselves and his aunt, and his next victim was his 8-month-old sister, whom he strangled while his parents were asleep, according to his aunt. Some family members were aware of the crimes but considered them family matters, and the crimes went unreported until Amarjit killed a 3rd child in 2007. The alleged final victim was a 6-month-old girl named Osho. Her mother reported to a neighbor about her daughter's disappearance after leaving her asleep in an elementary school. Reportedly, Amarjit confessed to strangling the child and hitting her with a brick, then led the villagers to the location, where the child was buried. Amarjit was taken into custody by the police, where he confessed to killing his sister 3 months earlier, and his cousin the previous year. The murders were carried out in a similar manner. Amarjit showed a smile but remained silent. Under Indian law, the child cannot be sent to prison. Instead, he can be detained in a children's home until he reaches 18 years of age. Psychological tests indicated that Amarjit was suffering from behavioral disorders. He was placed in a house in the town of Manga Beaver Brothers, and the news may mention Beaver, but this is about the story of the Beaver brothers, Robert and Michael Beaver, who were involved in a horrific and tragic crime. The Broken Arrow community in Oklahoma was shocked in the year 2015 when the brothers orchestrated a brutal attack on their family, resulting in the loss of their parents and siblings on July 22, 2015. The Beaver brothers executed their plan inside their family home, armed with knives and an axe. They launched a fierce attack on their parents, David and April Beaver, as well as their younger siblings. The attack was characterized by extreme brutality and cruelty that claimed the lives of their parents and 2 of their siblings, Daniel and Victoria Beaver. 2 other siblings who were also present during the attack managed to survive, but they sustained serious injuries. The motive behind this heinous act still remains the subject of speculation, and ongoing investigation reports indicate that the brothers share a fascination with violence, adding a disturbing layer of complexity to their actions. During the interrogation, Michael Beaver revealed disturbing details about the tragic incident. According to reports, Michael disclosed that they had a predetermined target, like other criminals. Michael called his sister into a room to distract her while his brother attacked her. After that, their mother was targeted, then their father. At this stage, their brother Daniel had barricaded himself in his bedroom, desperately seeking help by calling 911. Tragically, Michael deceived Daniel by falsely claiming that Robert was chasing him too, and urged him to open the door to barricade together with him. Daniel trusted his brother's words, allowed Michael to enter, and disconnected the 911 call. At that moment, the older sister managed to escape and called for help outside, leading to the activation of the house alarm. However, Michael immediately disabled the alarm and forcibly brought her back into the house, exposing her to more violence while her two younger brothers, aged 5 and 7 years old, they searched for shelter and locked themselves in the bathroom. Michael used the same trick again by convincing them to open the door under a false pretext that Robert was attacking everyone. And tragically, Michael began to kill his 7-year-old brother, while Robert assaulted the 5-year-old brother. Fortunately, a knock on the door stopped the ongoing brutality, and the police arrived immediately thanks to Daniel's desperate call for help. And this intervention halted the wave of violence after their arrest, and Robert and Michael Bever were charged with multiple crimes, the seriousness of the charges, and the heinous nature of the crime. They were tried as adults, and in the year 2016, Robert Bever pled guilty to 5 counts of first-degree murder, and received multiple life sentences without the possibility of parole. On the other hand, Michael Bever appeared in court in the year 2018 and was convicted of all crimes and also sentenced to life imprisonment, without the possibility of parole, ensuring that they will not pose a threat to the community again. Michael Hernandez was born in February 1988 in Miami, Florida. He initially appeared as a smart and well-behaved child, known for his exceptional academic abilities. However, beneath this normal facade, there were underlying issues that would later contribute to a horrific crime in 2004. At 14 years old, Hernandez committed a brutal act that sent shockwaves across the nation. Hernandez's horrific crime involved luring his classmate Jamie Goff into a bathroom stall at Southwood Middle School in Miami, where he proceeded to attack Goff with a knife, ultimately leading to his death. Due to the heinous nature of the crime and the young age of both the victim and the perpetrator, the community was deeply shaken. The motive behind Hernandez's heinous act was the subject of speculation and analysis. Some reports indicate he had a morbid fascination with serial criminals, regularly researching their lives and methods. Additionally, it was discovered he kept a journal full of disturbing writings and drawings depicting violence. And perhaps these elements, along with the desire for fame, contributed to his decision to commit such a heinous crime. After his arrest, Hernandez faced a trial that began in the year 2008, and the prosecution presented compelling evidence, including surveillance. Hernandez was tried as an adult, which sparked significant controversy over the appropriate punishment. And in the same year, the court found Hernandez guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced the young criminal to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, and tears welled up in his eyes upon hearing the devastating verdict. And this verdict confirmed the seriousness of his crime, and the judge was convinced that it constituted a first-degree murder. The decision to issue a life sentence was a significant and highly controversial event, drawing attention to the challenges faced by the juvenile justice system and the potential for rehabilitation, balance, and scrutiny between punishment and redemption. Since his conviction, Hernandez has made several attempts to appeal the judgment issued against him and have it overturned. He said that his age must be taken into account, but he was not given the opportunity to leave prison, and in the year 2021, at the age of 31, he died behind bars, and the autopsy revealed that Hernandez was morbidly obese. He was 177 centimeters tall and weighed 129 kilograms. He was also suffering from heart disease. Michael Hernandez's case serves as a tragic reminder of the consequences of mental health issues. The untreated and the potential risks of exposure to violent media highlight the complexities of the juvenile justice system. The balance between punishment and rehabilitation is a subject of ongoing discussion and reflection. Brenda Spencer's name will forever be linked to a tragic event that deeply affected the nation, and drew attention to the complex challenges surrounding mental health and access to firearms. Born on April 3, 1962, in San Diego, California, the actions of Spencer on January 29, 1979, left an indelible mark on her community, raising profound questions about the motives behind these acts of violence. When Spencer was 16 years old, she committed a heinous act, forever altering the lives of many, armed with a rifle, caliber .22, where she positioned herself near a window in her home overlooking Grover Cleveland Elementary School. When the students and staff arrived at the school that day, she began a horrifying display of violence, opening fire randomly, targeting innocent victims without remorse. The consequences of Spencer's actions were devastating, resulting in the tragic loss of 2 lives and leaving 9 others injured. Among the main victims were Principal Burton Ragg and custodian Mike Susha, whose deaths caused surprise and waves of shock throughout the community. This senseless act of violence left many people struggling to understand how a young teenager could harbor such darkness. Following her arrest, when asked why she did it, Spencer responded harshly, "I don't like Mondays." This frightening statement left observers in a state of shock and confusion as they searched for answers that might provide some semblance of understanding in the face of such an inexplicable act. The actions revealed Spencer's troubled upbringing. It played a significant role in shaping her path, and reports revealed a history of violent tendencies and depression. It was discovered that she developed a passion for firearms, even requesting a gun as a Christmas gift, which her father gave her. In 1983, Spencer faced the court for her crimes and was convicted on multiple charges, including taking lives and multiple counts of assault with a deadly weapon. She was sentenced to life imprisonment despite numerous appeals over the years. The verdict against Spencer has been upheld, and she remains in custody, with her case serving as a formal reminder of the far-reaching consequences of acts of violence. It underscores the critical importance of addressing mental health concerns at an early stage. In addition, it reignited discussions about the need for stricter gun control measures to prevent firearms from falling into the wrong hands, especially those with mental health issues. Edmund Kemper, also known as the co-ed killer, is a notorious American serial criminal who committed a series of horrific crimes in the 1970s. And the horrific acts of violence and the gruesome nature of his crimes earned him a place as one of the most dangerous criminals and infamous serial criminals widely studied in history. Born in 1948 in Burbank, California, Kemper showed disturbing behavior from a young age, and his relationship with his parents was troubled, especially with his mother, towards whom he harbored deep resentment. Edmund's childhood was marked by violence and tormenting pain and killing animals, which is often considered warning signs of violent tendencies in the future. The criminal activities on campus began in 1964. When he was only 15 years old, he took the lives of his grandparents by shooting his grandmother and attacking his grandfather with a knife. Edmund later claimed that these actions were driven by his desire to experience the sensation of ending someone's life and exercising control over life and death. After spending years in a mental institution, Edmund was released in the year 1969, despite concerns raised by psychiatrists about the potential for him to commit violence tragically, and their concerns were validated. To commit a series of brutal crimes in the early 1970s, primarily targeting young women, earning him the nickname, who often transported college students to isolated places where he would strangle them and dismember them. His violent tendencies culminated when he killed his mother and her friend in the year 1973. He decapitated his mother and engaged in disturbing acts concerning her body before disposing of it, and then he voluntarily surrendered to the police, confessing to the series of horrific crimes that terrorized California in 1973. He was convicted of 8 counts of first-degree murder and sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, despite his heinous crimes. He was a fascinating subject for researchers and psychologists due to his high intelligence and consistent nature throughout his life. During his time in prison, he collaborated with psychological and criminal profiling experts, providing valuable insights into his mind and the motives behind his crimes. His case significantly contributed to the understanding of serial criminals. He is better known as the Sister Killer. Born in 1999, Fairweather gained notoriety as one of the youngest convicted serial criminals in the United Kingdom, highlighting the disturbing capacity for violence. In June 2014, when he was only 15 years old, he embarked on. During this period, he began a horrifying series of crimes that claimed the lives of 2 innocent people. The first victim was James Atfield, a 33-year-old man with brain damage who often visited the city's gardens. Fairweather targeted him in a brutal attack, stabbing him with a knife over 100 times. And on the following morning, a terrified passerby discovered Field's lifeless body, sending shockwaves through the community. After just 2 months, Fairweather struck again by choosing another unexpected victim. This time, his target was Nahid Al-Manea, a 31-year-old Saudi student. As she walked to the University of Essex, Fairweather ambushed her and attacked her with a knife, leaving her to succumb to her wounds on the road. Where this series of brutal crimes plunged Colchester into chaos, fear, and panic while residents grappled with the city police. He did not realize that all this horror was caused by a humble young teenager capable of committing such heinous acts. The police worked tirelessly to catch the criminal, leaving no stone unturned in their investigations. And in a fateful development, Fairweather's arrest resulted from his terrifying boasting and threats directed at his friend, who was disturbed by his statements. The friend bravely reported him to the authorities, leading to Fairweather's arrest in June 2014. During police interrogation, Fairweather confessed to his crimes, which further established his guilt. He claimed that he heard voices urging him to make sacrifices, and in the year 2015, Fairweather was tried and convicted of 2 counts of murder. The judge acknowledged the severity and brutality of his actions and sentenced Fairweather to 27 years in prison. And the court acknowledged that he poses a significant threat to the public, serving as a terrifying reminder of the destructive capabilities that can reside within such a young individual, named James Fairweather. He will forever be associated with a dark chapter in the history of Colchester, and his crimes will serve as a grim reminder that evil can appear unexpectedly, and that vigilance, empathy, and preventive measures are essential in ensuring the safety and well-being of communities. Alyssa Bustamante was born in 1994 in the state of Missouri and became known for committing a horrific crime at a young age. She sent shockwaves across the country on October 21, 2009, when she was only 15 years old. Bustamante brutally assaulted her neighbor Elizabeth Olten, 9 years old, in the St. Martin neighborhood. Bustamante lured Elizabeth into the woods. She strangled her and then proceeded to attack her with a knife. After she killed her, she buried Elizabeth's body in a shallow grave and tried to conceal the evidence of her crime. The real motive behind Bustamante's actions, which was later revealed during the trial, was that she had a troubled childhood marked by neglect and abuse. She also struggled with mental health issues, including depression and a history of self-harm. Bustamante showed a disturbing fascination with death and violence, as evidenced by her writings and drawings. The shocking nature of the crime and the young age of the girl sparked nationwide controversy over the appropriate punishment for young offenders, where some argued for leniency considering her age and the possibility of rehabilitation. On the other hand, most believed that the severity of the crime warranted a harsher penalty, and in the year 2012, Bustamante pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and armed criminal action. and was sentenced to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole. In the year 2024, Bustamante's case attracted paying attention to the importance of early intervention and mental health support for mentally troubled youth. She also emphasized the need for accessible resources and a comprehensive approach to address the underlying issues that can lead to acts of violence. The Bustamante crime was undoubtedly horrific, and Bustamante continued to be the first victim. A topic of public interest and scrutiny is that some see her young age at the time of the crime, and the possibility of rehabilitation should be considered for a potential reduction of her sentence, while others believe the punishment is appropriate given the severity of her actions. Eric Smith, born on January 22, 1980, he gained notoriety for committing a heinous crime at a very young age. When he was only 13 years old, Smith brutally killed a 4-year-old boy named Derek Roby in Steuben County, New York, in 1993. This tragic event deeply shocked the community and raised profound questions about the capacity for violence during adolescence and the complexities of the juvenile criminal justice system. On that fateful day, Eric Smith met Derek Roby, who was walking alone to a summer camp. Smith seized the opportunity and lured the boy, taking him to a secluded wooded area where he subjected Derek to a brutal assault and strangulation to death. The nature and brutality of the crime shook the local community to the core, causing anger and disbelief after the discovery of Derek's lifeless body. This was followed by a massive manhunt for Eric Smith, who became the main suspect with his distinctive red hair and glasses. He was arrested shortly afterward and soon confessed to the crime. Smith's confession, along with substantial forensic evidence, left no doubt about his guilt at the time of the crime. Smith was only 13 years old, which led to intense scrutiny of the crime, and the juvenile justice system questioned whether any child of Smith's age could fully comprehend the gravity of his actions, and whether the right decision was to subject him to the same standards, which he applies to adult offenders. These questions became the focal point in the legal proceedings after a lengthy trial. Smith was convicted and charged with second-degree murder. The defense lawyer argued that he should be tried as a juvenile, but the court sentenced him as an adult due to the severity of his crime. Smith was sentenced to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after serving 28 years in prison. Smith was released, and many significant details about the case were revealed, and since then, Smith's case has sparked discussions about the effectiveness of rehabilitation and the appropriate punishment for younger criminals. Some believe that teenagers with developing brains and the potential for change should be given a chance for rehabilitation and eventual reintegration into society. He is a convicted criminal who made headlines for committing a fatal shooting incident at a school in the United States. Born on September 19, 1994, Lin grew up to become one of the most notorious teenage criminals in the world. His violent attacks significantly impacted the lives of the victims' families, and attention was drawn to the issue concerning school safety on February 27, 2012. When he was only 17 years old, Lin carried out a tragic event at Chardon High School in Chardon, Ohio. Armed with a caliber pistol, 22 targeted the students in the cafeteria during breakfast. Lin's actions led to the death of 3 students and the injury of 3 others. The victims were identified as Daniel Parmator, Demetrius Hewlin, and Russell King Jr. The motive behind Lane's attack remains a subject of speculation and debate. Some reports suggest personal grievances or feelings of resentment. It might have motivated him, while others point to mental health issues as a contributing factor. Lane's troubled background, including a history of behavioral issues and a difficult family life, added complexity to the case. After the shooting, he was apprehended by a teacher who managed to subdue him until authorities arrived. Later, he was charged with multiple counts during his trial, and Lin showed no remorse for his actions. Instead, he smiled and made inappropriate gestures in the courtroom, wearing a shirt with an obscene and disrespectful word, addressing the victims' families in an insulting manner in March 2013. With all the charges against him and sentenced to life imprisonment, without the possibility of parole, the judge described his actions as evil and emphasized the need to protect society from someone capable of committing such violence. The shooting at Sheridan High School sent shockwaves throughout the country. This sparked discussions about gun control, school safety measures, and the mental health of individuals and youth. This tragic incident prompted communities to consider the importance of identifying and addressing signs of distress and violent tendencies in troubled youth. The impact of Lin's actions on the families of the victims and the Chardon community cannot be overstated, as the tragedy deeply changed their lives and left them suffering from grief and shock. However, the community also came together to support each other. With resilience and commitment to healing, Nathaniel Brazil gained notoriety for his involvement in a high-profile tragic crime that occurred in Lake Worth, Florida, in the year 2000. He was born in October 1986. Nathaniel was only 13 years old when he committed the act that changed his life and the lives of others forever. On May 26, 2000, Nathaniel Brazil brought a stolen gun to Lake Worth Middle School, where he was a student. He entered the English classroom and confronted his teacher, Barry Grunow, who reportedly reprimanded him. And during the confrontation, Nathaniel tragically fired the gun at Barry's head, leading to the loss of his life. The incident sent shockwaves through the community and gained national attention due to the age of the perpetrator and the senselessness of the crime, raising many questions about gun control in schools and the impact of media on youth behavior. Nathaniel was arrested shortly after the shooting and was charged with premeditated murder. He was tried as an adult despite his age due to the seriousness of the crime. During the trial proceedings, Nathaniel's defense attorney argued that the crime was not committed intentionally and also pointed out that the shooting occurred accidentally. While Nathaniel and Grunow were struggling to overcome each other, the prosecution argued that Nathaniel brought the gun to school with the intention of hurting someone. And in the year 2001, Nathaniel Brazil was convicted of second-degree murder and assault with a firearm and sentenced to 28 years in prison, with eligibility for parole only after serving at least 25 years. And Nathaniel's case continued to attract attention, with supporters advocating for Nathaniel Brazil and his release, while others argue for upholding his sentence. Over the years, there have been legal challenges and appeals regarding his case, but Nathaniel's verdict and conviction were upheld in due course. Nathaniel is currently serving his sentence at the Jackson Correctional Institution and is scheduled for release in 2028 during his time in prison. He successfully completed his general education development program and received a certificate. Craig Price, also known as the War Serial Killer. He is a convicted serial criminal whose heinous acts gained notoriety due to the horrific crimes he committed in Rhode Island in the late 1980s. Bryce's crimes and the complexities surrounding his case continue to attract public attention and generate interest, and all questions about the nature of evil have been answered by the criminal justice system. Craig Price was born on October 11, 1973. His violent tendencies became apparent at an early age when he began engaging in cruelty to animals and displaying aggressive behavior. But it was not until 1987, at the age of 13, Price embarked on a wave of brutal assaults that sent shockwaves through the community. Price's first victim was Rebecca Spencer, a 27-year-old woman he met while walking near her home and broke into her house. He attacked her brutally and left her lifeless body behind. Less than a year later, he struck again, this time targeting a mother named Joan Heaton and her daughters Jennifer and Melissa. Bryce broke into their home and brutally attacked the three victims, instilling fear in the community as the criminal remained at large. Eventually, suspicion fell upon Craig Bryce, who had a history of violent behavior and had previously been involved with the police. Bryce was arrested in 1989 after a witness came forward with incriminating information, and he eventually confessed to committing the crimes. The shocking aspect of Bryce's crimes lies not only in their brutality, but also in his age at the time, as he was only 15 years old, and Price became one of the youngest killers. This fact sparked a debate about the nature of juvenile violence and the appropriate response from the criminal justice system given his age. He was initially convicted as a juvenile and sentenced to spend some time in youth detention facilities until his 21st birthday. His violent tendencies continued while in detention, and he assaulted fellow inmates. He even took the life of one of them, leading to a reassessment of his case. And in 1992, Bryce was convicted and sentenced to a long imprisonment. And throughout his time, Bryce remained a highly controversial figure, and he showed little remorse for his crimes and was involved in more violent incidents within the prison walls. Despite the possibility of his rehabilitation, Bryce's actions and behavior raised doubts about the possibility of his eventual release. Craig Price remains imprisoned in a Rhode Island jail, serving sentences for his crimes. And now, can we say that there is a capacity for evil at any age? Stay tuned for more engaging content and click on that card on your screen.